correction of changing that third bullet down to Wilson BD. All in favor of accepting the minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. So, we have public comment. Any public comment today? All right. Jim, you're up to talk about
Okay,
saving our fresh water pouring all over the place.
well, I don't think I'll take up too much of your time. And the intent of this meeting is similar to what I've been doing with other towns. And these are all the towns that have developed a stormwater master plan. And for several years, going back about a decade now, every year, myself and Shelley Stiles from the Bennington County Conservation District, we partnered up and we applied for grants for towns to hire engineers to develop a stormwater master plan for their respective towns. And Shelley retired, so I continued this trend. And over the years, we've had stormwater master plans for the towns of Rupert, Sandgate, Arlington, Sunderland, Shaftesbury, and more recent, Bennington, North Bennington, and Powell. And the intent is that we identify areas throughout the town where there are ongoing erosion issues. And we consult first with the select board, and then spend a lot more time working with the road foreman, where we will go out in the field, drive with the road foreman, and they can tell us right off the bat, these are issues that we have perennial issues with, particularly like during mud season, for instance. And we're fortunate, we would have to always go out to bid because of our procurement policy, but we're very fortunate that Fitzgerald Environmental was the firm that ultimately got chosen every single time to develop these stormwater master plans. So we got very used to the formatting that they did and the high quality of work that they did, and it really meshed. It set up the towns very well when the Clean Water Act was passed, and the subsequent requirements of the Clean Water Act, including the municipal road general permit, which all the towns need to now address on their roads that are within 100 feet of the surface water. And in order to implement that stormwater, the municipal road general permit, the state of Vermont now makes available grant and aid grants that each year the towns can sign up to participate in, and Sunderland has signed every year to participate in a grant and aid project, which is a 20% match by the town. And the reason why I'm here tonight is because this plan was developed back in 2017. The first one we did was in Rupert, and that was in 2015. And I'm thinking to myself, the boards have changed, lots of new people, even some new road foremen, and this is sitting on a shelf where people don't even know that it exists. I love being a planner, but what I don't like is when you spend a whole lot of time developing, the best plan ever, and then it gets put on a shelf and it starts to collect dust. So my intent is to meet with the towns and bring this back up, provide you with copies, because I assume that probably most of you didn't even know that it existed. Mark certainly does, and we could go through this right now, project by project, and I could check off a bunch of them that have already been finished, because we would either apply for a specific grant to address one of these issues, or we would go to this to identify what project we would address with each year's grant and aid money. And so It's kind of too bad that Mark's not here, but I've already talked to him about this, we talked quite a bit. And the only reason why he, I would say I wish he was here is because if you had a specific project that jumps out at you, I might be able to tell you whether or not we've addressed that and it's been done, or in certain cases, I might not know that the road crew has been out there and they already had worked on that. So I'm here really just to bring this to your attention, to get your eyes on it, with the intent that we identify a couple projects, and we will work with Mark on that. The intent to either apply a grant and aid project to, which the town currently has 2 grants, and I'll get to that in a moment, or next fall with a bigger project. For instance, if there was a large culvert that you wanted to replace, that is, fairly much more expensive than a grant and aid project or program would support. We could apply for a Better Roads grant, and the outcome of these meetings that I held last fall with 5 of the towns were 5 Better Road grant applications that we submitted, and they were in Rupert, Sandgate, Arlington, North Bennington, and Shaftesbury. My fingers are crossed, in the next week or two we'll hear whether or not our applications were successful, and they're all very straightforward, easy to implement projects like stone line ditching and culverts, things that the towns have to do eventually on hydrologically connected roads. So I'm here really just to bring this to your attention, and if you have had a chance to review this and you had some ideas, then I'd be happy to write those ideas down and discuss them with Mark, put together a grant application, and pursue the project through grant money.
Bruce is our liaison to the road crew. He is on top of all this. He keeps us informed of all the things that are going on. He's done a great job working with Mark, and he's kept right up to date with all that. But so I'd appreciate anything that you do with Mark that you include Bruce on email or the select board, but mainly Bruce, because he's really done a super job working with Mark to keep our roads up.
I do know you had a conversation with Mark. He was expecting you to go back and see him again to discuss, because they have done a lot of those that are on the list.
That's true.
Yeah, and they're actually pretty booked this year as far as things that they're doing. So if anything, that's going to be, it'll probably have to be like next spring, if you're gonna have some scoping or something going on.
If we're to apply for a Better Road grant to address one of these, then we wouldn't even know if we got that grant until a year from now anyways. But right now, the town has been awarded a grant from the grant and aid program that's administered through V-Trans, and the town sent in a letter of intent to participate last year, and again this year. I don't recall what the grant amount was off the top of my head, but it's fairly substantial. It's say in the neighborhood of about $20,000, and the town has to match that with 20%, which they generally do through their contribution of labor or equipment. And the point is, last year with Mark being injured, and there was the flooding that occurred, the state of Vermont made an extension for last year's grant and aid. They were supposed to be completed by last fall, and when I talked to Mark and I realized that he was injured and was not up to 100%, and Josh was pretty much filling in, my immediate thought was, oh great, well, that's going to be grant and aid money flushed down. However, because of the flooding, they extended that. So we have a grant and aid project in play right now. We just need to identify it. And I talked to Mark about it, and I said, let's go for the low-hanging fruit. Let's get some culverts that are 15 inches that do not meet the state requirement, that is now an 18-inch, if it's within 100 feet of surface water. Or those steep gravel roads that have ditching that need to be stone lined. Those are straightforward, easy projects. The town is very well equipped to do that on their own, but in some cases, a town will go out to contract and hire somebody to do that. So either way, the town wants to go about doing that. I think it is essential that we identify a project for last year's grant. Then, within a matter of a week or so, V-Trans will determine how much each town will be receiving in this year's grant and aid. So there will be a second project that we really ought to identify and try to implement by the end of this year, which would be sometime in the fall. So there's two projects really that we need to try to accomplish this summer. And I'm suggesting, straightforward projects like culvert replacements. And Mark, when I talked to Mark a week or two ago, he said, oh, we got 15-inch culverts all over town that we can address. We just need to pick some.
So even if they're functioning, they want?
Yes, even if they're functioning. The municipal road general permit came out of the Clean Water Act, and they have identified all the road segments that are broken into 100 meters that are within 100 feet of the surface water, and that could be a stream, a lake, a pond, or a wetland. And so, for instance, the vast majority of Kelly Stand is hydrologically connected, and we've spent 2 of our past grants up there. And we also did a fairly large project on Bentley Hill Road. We did a project out on Prouty Hill Road. And they were identified in this document. That's how we decided those were the projects that we would do. We went to this and we picked a couple of the high priority ones. So I'm not expecting you to tell me, okay, let's do this one, let's go for it, Jim. But your support would be appreciated to allow me to continue to work with Mark and now Bruce, and hopefully we can get a project that will count towards your requirement of the municipal road general permit. And
So I think we should have a conversation with Mark and to see what's actually been done and go from there. And I can report to the board.
I agree. And I know he's been very preoccupied with the bike lane.
It's pretty much, they're waiting to see if the grant for the paving before.
A lot of the projects that I tend to develop and identify with the road crews throughout Bennington County are projects that they are going to be doing anyways. And a lot of times the conversation begins is, let's go out and look at a project that you're thinking of working on this summer. And if it qualifies for the grant money, then they're getting paid to do work that they're already planning on doing anyways. So it's kind of a win-win if you approach it that way. Or if there is a perennial issue that the town has just been putting off addressing because for a number of reasons, either it's a financial reason, or it could be the road is going to be upgraded in a few years, or you might even have private property owners who might not be supportive of the project, and we'll put those off for a little bit longer. especially the financially challenging ones. I would suggest that we go after specific grant money that has a higher level of funding, like the Better Road Grant, or if there was a large structure, and I know there's a couple of them in here, and Mark's mentioned a couple in our conversations, you can apply for a V-Trans Structures Grant. And last year, we were successful in securing a structures grant for the town of Sandgate and the village of North Bennington, and that was, both of those combined was almost $500,000 worth of projects, because they involve large pipes, which a lot of people might consider actually a bridge. So,
We may have a good one in mind, we'll discuss that.
So you'll get with Mark and Bruce, and if you could come up with a time, Bruce.
I sure would. Bruce, could you give me your email address?
And Jim, can you, this is current stuff, and this was from 2017?
No, this is all from the 2017, it's all together, there's just different appendixes. This is the actual report, and then there were various appendixes, including the overall project map, and this is the map that shows each one of those projects.
Excellent.
And then there was another appendix that I did not include. What it was a matrix that Fitzgerald Environmental developed so that they could put in all the projects that were identified and then score them based on certain attributes, such as the support of private property owners, permitting, costs, the effect of addressing water quality issues. So all of this matrix was developed, and then the final scores would identify those projects that rose to the top. And those are the projects that we've addressed some already. I did not print that off for you because it's a little bit technical, and what's more important is that you can look at each one of these projects and get a description of each one, and each one comes with a cost. However, I will tell you right now, the costs have gone up substantially since 2017, and for instance, the price of culverts has skyrocketed. During COVID, many towns couldn't even find a culvert, let alone purchase one. That situation has gotten much better, and some of the towns stockpiled, and because we have a tight-knit road crew network in Bennington County, I would guarantee you if there was not an available culvert in Sunderland, but I think there are, there's a pretty good stock down there. But you'd be able to get one from one of the other town crews, and on a loan, or exchange this for that sort of thing.
Excellent. Do you have anything, Bruce, to add? I know you've been.
I think we just have a conversation with Mark and go from there,
And
my opinion.
And maybe you and Mark could go through these that have been accomplished or
He
finished.
said most of them, a lot of them are done. The big dollar ones, 80,000, and 20% of that is quite a bit of chunk of money for the
Yes.
town to come up with. So
Yes, it
we have
is.
to look into that too.
Yeah, and that's often the double-edged sword. For instance, a structures grant, one of the pipes that the town of Sandgate was awarded, it amounted to over $150,000 worth of work for the materials itself, the equipment, and the time to do it. And that's a big chunk of a match, 20%. So it is something that, that you need to take into consideration.
Pretty much, well, we want to go look into things and go over it with him, and then we'll discuss it.
And there are still issues in town that haven't been fully addressed since Irene. Like, for instance, there's a culvert, a fairly large one, I think it's a 4-footer, on Dunham Road. And during Irene, that thing, like, literally popped up and came out of the ground when Mark was trying to work on it. And I think he just reset it.
No, I think it's been done.
That one was replaced?
I believe so, I'm pretty sure.
That would be good.
Well, Bruce, you and Mark could get with Jim and go over, maybe you could sit with Mark first and check off the ones that have been finished, and then get with Jim and see what.
I think Peter Haggerty did it last year, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but.
All right.
Thank you so much, really appreciate it, and as I said, Bruce fortunately has been on top of stuff, he works very closely with Mark, and
We switched pens, Bruce.
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
I like my blue pen.
Yeah, I like this one too.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yep.
And,
Great, well, thank you.
Any questions? My contact is in the email that I sent to Dixie, so he could send it to you all, my email and my phone numbers.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I wish you all a good evening.
Yes,
Thank you.
you also.
Safe one.
Thanks.
All right, Marty, Sunderland Church restoration.
Yep, all kinds of exciting things happening. It was the North Shire Community Land Trust went and had a brief meeting at the Sunderland Church week and a half ago, I guess it was, and 4 of the 6 members were there, and they were very much interested in assuming responsibility. And I've spoken with Janet since then. In addition to that, Janet and I have composed the intake form for the Village Trust
Okay.
application. And what has come together now is, since the North Shire Community Land Trust will be voting to assume responsibility for the church, attempting to assume ownership of it and responsibility for the stabilization, repair, and rehabilitation of the church. The Village Trust intake form is going to be submitted under their name. So we are actually moving very far forward. We now will have a 501c3.
Great.
To become the legal entity, where they can apply for grants and other funds, fund applications to work on it. We've met with Neil and Andy, or the 2 main trustees of the church, and they're on board. Rob and I met with Andy and with Rob Zive, met with Andy and with Neil, with Merrill and Janet last week, and we ironed out a lot of questions that Neil and Andy had. And what's happening now is that Rob and I are working on a memorandum of understanding about the turnover to North Shire Community Land Trust, and Andy and Neil are working on their version of it, and then Andy and Neil and Rob and I will meet and we will merge them to come up with a single memorandum of understanding.
Excellent.
And then we'll meet then with the North Shire Community Land Trust and see if we can get agreement among all parties as to what all of us believe is the best way to move forward, and what we feel is the understanding on all parties as to what we all think is the best way to make this a community asset and what to do with it.
Excellent, excellent. And what was the status of trying to find heirs?
Merrill is looking into that. She thinks at some point she's going to have to get a court order, and try to get the ownership transferred. She is going to contact the heir, we think is in California, and ask if she would sign over a quitclaim deed. At some point, we're going to have to go through some sort of legal process in the courts and advertise for heirs, around to see if anybody else, has claim or claims to have claim. And then we'll eventually clear the ownership and have it revert to the land trust.
Excellent,
And then they'll be able to move forward.
super.
Does the trustees have any documentation that they're actually the trustees or not?
Not really. I mean, the only thing they have is the charter that says that, that the trustees will be responsible for it, but it never named the trustees. It just says that, the trustees. And they have just been the volunteer trustees for all these years.
And they have changed over the years too, right?
Yeah, Neil and Andy have been trustees for a significant amount of time, I would
Okay.
say. There's documentation here that Andy just produced that lists them as trustees from 1982. So that's 42 years already that they've been identified as trustees.
Wow, wow, yeah, that's good amount.
That's older than you.
Excellent.
85.
Yeah, they're the neighbors, right?
Yeah, they're the adjacent property. Well, Neil is the adjacent property holder. He owns the property that surrounds the church. And Andy is the next piece of property next to Neil
Okay.
along the road.
Good, great job. I like that moving forward. And also, Andrew came up with a bunch of information that for our homework to read up on information on the church. All of us will take a look at for next time. Anything else on the church? Anybody? Any comments, questions, ideas, thoughts? All right, moving forward, ARPA funds. Mark.
Everything is sort of on hold now. I've sent a copy of the agenda to Susan to post. She'll post it probably tomorrow for our next meeting, which will be on June 30th. That will be in preparation for our select board meeting in July, where the ARPA committee will present to the select board, officially present to the select board the recommendations.
Okay.
And our meeting in the end of June will be to spend one last time looking at the list of recommendations and compare that list of recommendations to the survey results to see what do we want to do with that list of recommendations. Do we want to change anything on it? Do we want to highlight any suggestions that are on the list? Do we want to move anything up or down? Before we make the presentation. So that's where we are.
Excellent, excellent. All right, road liaison, Bruce?
Well, the bridging has been fixed. I don't know if everybody's gone.
I
I've
have
been
it.
on it.
It's
It's
great.
really
What a
smooth.
Nice job.
Very good job.
That was, and taking a look at the concrete that was kind of chewed up a little bit. I saw the patch job, looks like excellent work down there, so. Now it's all paved and
Yeah.
no potholes on it anymore, that's great. Good
And
job on that.
the bike path is actually, we're waiting to see if we get the grant to do the road. Otherwise, if we don't get the grant, we'll do the paving for the bike path, and then, but Mark's hoping to get the grant, and so we kind of do it all at once.
That'd be good.
And they've been working on the Kelly stand, and pretty much, they're still waiting for the guardrail. That hasn't shown up yet, so he was inquiring about that. And that's about it, right?
Still gold plating and
Yes, I think so. All right,
Yeah, it's a very expensive piece of guardrail.
yeah. Two pieces are bent, and, yeah, I don't know what they're made out of, but,
Is it the whole length? Do we know? Is it the
I
whole
think
length of the
it's
span?
No.
four lengths, two uprights, I believe is what it is.
And the price was still kind of accurate.
Yep.
Okay.
but it comes with a free lump on the back of your head.
Yeah, I think, there's closest, well, Dave might know, there's not many people doing it.
No, it's not.
And if you try to find somebody farther away, it'll be
They're gonna kill you with the transportation to get here. There's really only a couple of people who do it in this part of the state, so they're all expensive.
do they have special wrenches? Is that why, when they're tightening those bolts, that's a special?
Specific little teeny tool, yeah.
But I think it's a lot of liability.
Yeah, that's part of it, is, you install it, you have a builder's lease liability for putting it in, so. We put in different kinds of them, yeah, it's startling how expensive it is. Well, like everything right now, in any kind of highway work, it's
Yeah,
really expensive.
$3 for the parts and $16,975 for the insurance.
You're paying for the 30 years of experience.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, great, well, thank
That's
you.
pretty much it.
Thank you, Bruce. Todd, emergency management?
Yep, so after, I think our, what was it, the April 22nd, where we voted to re-adopt the local emergency plan, I submitted that to DCRC and they submitted that to the state. I'm assuming the state has a whole bunch of these plans to go through, so I haven't heard back,
Okay.
but no news is good news on our end. So I'll wait to see. And then, let's see, tomorrow I have up in Manchester this quarter, the Regional Emergency Management Committee meeting tomorrow afternoon or evening. And then last week I attended the 4-hour Incident Command System 402 course down in Bennington. And that's a incident command for senior management. That went well, it was good refresher. And then just waiting to see back on that emergency plan, and then I'm gonna try to work on adding to it this summer.
Great, excellent. All right, Andrew, anything, maybe comment on Green Up Day and Energy Committee?
I don't have any hard statistics about how many bags of trash were picked up on Green Up Day back on Saturday, May 3rd, but it seemed like there were a lot of them. It seemed like a lot of folks came out to help out, and seems like there were several bags I saw along the roadside, which I guess the road crew picked up. So I guess Jeff has some of the statistics and numbers, but I haven't gotten anything on that.
Okay.
It seems like it was a fairly successful day.
I
I'm
think they-
curious to see if we reset the Guinness Book of Records on number of people around the state who came out to participate in Green Up Day. That was one target that was being looked at, but I don't know whether we got there or not. Otherwise, there's going to be an energy fair happening in Arlington down at the rec park there on Saturday, June 1st. That we're going to be helping out the Arlington Energy Committee with. And also already, even though it's not happening until next October, starting to do some work on the window dressers project. Most of you probably know about it by this point. It's been 3 or 4 years, but this year will be held up at the First Congregational Church in Manchester Village. It's been held in Arlington the last couple of years, but won't be able to use the Legion Hall, I guess, this year. So that'll be October 18th to the 23rd, and that's where, if you want to order like a window insert that could fit over a window to keep the cold air out and the warm air in, orders are being taken now. So, if that's something
And folks from the
you're
committee,
interested in.
folks from the committee will come and measure them, So if you pick on want these 3 windows done, someone will come and measure them so that we make sure that they fit correctly, so, you know, they do work very well. I have several in my house, and those are terrific. And my house is pretty new too, and still helps.
Other than that, we're starting to have a few discussions about putting together like an energy dashboard to kind of measure energy use around the town, both here in this building and town garage, starting with the starting point. But it's, I guess, sort of similar to the one that the Arlington Energy Committee has put together, and it's on their, lives in the town website there. Wind Hall also has a dashboard that is, I know for sure is up on their website, and we heard from the chair of their energy committee, some 2 meetings ago now, to learn a little bit about how they did theirs. So it's kind of a project that's ongoing, and hopefully the idea would be to kind of really track how much energy use is being expended by town buildings and see if there are some cost savings to be had somewhere. Those will be posted to a website. Other than that, the next meeting is going to be on May 29th at 7 o'clock. It's a Zoom meeting, so people can join, and anyone is welcome.
Thanks, Andrew.
I got a question. Do they do an energy audit every year on this building?
I'm not sure.
No, they don't do it every year there, but they needed to do a more official one if we're going to get, apply for grant money for the heat pumps for this room and maybe other rooms in the building.
Whatever happened to that?
I think they came through in the last few weeks, wasn't it?
They were here
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So we need to get the official report from them, and then that had to be done to get the grant, because the first audit here was just a walkthrough, and it wasn't an official evaluation, but they did the pressure test and, you know, see what all the leakage was and all that stuff, so I have not seen that report yet, but it should be coming sometime in the near future, we hope. Anything else on energy?
Not that I know.
And CUD's kind of, I think everybody's got internet now, right? Almost.
Well, I'll defer to Todd for the latest updates, and Todd made it to the last meeting, which I wasn't able to get to. I had a conflict that night, but
Yeah.
it sounded like it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it seems like it's chugging along. There's still like roughly 17 households, I think, in Bennington County. Most of them, though, are pretty much only accessible from out of state. So there's some towns down in south of Bennington, Pownell, and it's I think Massachusetts. They can only get to it from there, and then also in Arlington, you can only get to a couple places from New York. And so the last meeting, we approved to get a finance person the CUD's worked with in the past to draft a RFP to see if we can drum up some interest from the companies to see if we can get anyone to bite on getting those last couple households.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll see.
That's great.
Other than that,
I mean, there were a lot without it, now everybody's
Yeah.
got access, which is great.
so just seems more administrative right now from, you know, utilities out of state.
Great. Anything else on internet? All right, BCRC and the Solid Waste Committee, the Household Hazardous Waste Permanent Facility in Bennington is opening, I think, next week. If anybody has any household hazardous waste they want to get rid of, they need to call or go online, make an appointment, and they can drop their stuff off without standing in long lines, so we're looking forward to that. BCRC also has its annual meeting on Thursday at the Arlington Inn, and I'll be attending that one. I don't know if anybody else here is going.
I am.
All Excellent. With that, David, Kiernan, maybe can you give us a little update on our little meeting on May 7th?
Yeah, we're gonna follow up with that with the planning commission. One thing we have to decide, or the board has to decide now, is the second public hearing for the select board, which to me looks like the first practical date would be June 17th. I think that's a meeting night. You have a schedule in front of you to check? Because it has to be warned the same way, it has to have a 15-day public notice in the banner, and all these other little complications. So our meeting's at the end of the month. Didn't hear anything at the meeting that was too startling off, it was pretty close. We're taking into consideration the request from Roaring Branch,
Yep.
cabin owners. That was an interesting legal situation they have there, which may be easy to plug into the bylaw without much of an issue. And the rest of it, I've continued to do research on it, and, you know, there's all kinds of wildly different regulations around the state, and I think ours is fairly generous, to say the least. It's very unobtrusive. And even on our 4-bedroom limit that the select board wanted to put in, I have found that other towns, when you go to more than 8 occupancy, require you to have a full Department of Fire Safety inspection and certification of the building. So that can be expensive, so I don't think we're gonna have any pushback there. And we're gonna tweak a few things. There's a few parts of legal language that have to be dropped into that yet.
Okay.
But I think when we get the revised one after our meeting to the board, I think the 17th is when we should set the second public hearing. I think that could be at a regular select board meeting, given the attendance at the last one, and I don't see any big objection coming up after that meeting.
Great.
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty straightforward.
Dave, I have a question. You talking about putting the stuff in that the Roaring Branch people, was it the idea about the loft, or that thing, the quote they had about the condominium association,
Yes.
whose members are restricted, was both, you were talking about both of those pieces?
The sleeping loft is another interesting thing. It's worded in a number of different ways in different places, but you're still hitting the number 8. So limiting it to 4 bedrooms, 2 per area. Some towns define sleeping lofts and things. I think that's really getting pretty deep into the weeds. If you have, 2 people per bedroom, I think that's worthwhile. But that's a discussion the planning commission still has to have on whether we want to try and add some wording in there. So I've continued to read up to see if that appears in other places, definitions for sleeping spaces and things. I mean, you can really get deep into this, so I think it's worthwhile to look at, but I don't know what we would recommend on that yet. The other part, that was very interesting. A deeded restriction on the land is something we could probably, because it's so specific, we could probably just put that in there as, an exemption. And nobody else has that, and, so it seems okay. Yeah, there's a few other things. There's a line that we'll probably have to put in, because any rented room is considered a public dwelling. We might have to footnote that any questions should be directed to fire safety, even though it gets vague with the SDRs, but it is still considered a public dwelling. And other towns they have specific numbers that are allowed in the town. They have, for Stowe, I think it had, Woodstock, requires everyone, no matter what, to get a certificate of occupancy from fire safety. And I don't think we want to go there. But again, we're going to talk about all this stuff at the planning commission and come back to you.
For that, you mentioned the 8 occupants.
Mhm.
Is that something that would only go into effect if we added it to our bylaws, or just by default, because it's a state rule, the existing
Yeah,
large properties here
it's
have to go
interesting
through that?
where that got very vague.
Yeah.
In the towns that have it, they just plug it in there. But I was just thinking, well, the board wants 4 bedroom max, 2 per bedroom, so that's 8, so we can just leave it there. But it's very specific with, I think it was Killington, and it might have been Stowe, that's specifically, over 8. And I'm not sure yet, I was trying to read this morning to see where they actually came up with that number, but fire safety site doesn't address it directly, so I was thinking of calling up there later in the week and say, what is the story with this? So, but I think if we can plan on the 17th for the second hearing, and if something comes up in our meeting at the end of the month, if we have to ask to push it till July, we'll push it to July, you know. But I think we're on the right track to just get this wrapped up.
Excellent.
You said June 17th?
June 17th, yes. Right, that is a meeting date for me, for you, right? June 17th?
Is that the second Monday?
I think it's the second Monday of the month. I wrote it down, so I must have looked it up first.
Uh,
It's the second Monday of the month.
Mhm.
Third Monday of the month.
Third, that's the third. So,
Yeah.
ours is actually the week before that, right? So,
Oh, right.
So it's the 10th.
I'm on the wrong town schedule. Okay, so you'd be the second and fourth Mondays.
so it'd be 10th, right?
10th is too soon, we can't do that. So it'd have to be the 24th.
24th, okay.
The 10th is too soon because we don't have
Yes.
enough time between our meeting and their
Right.
meeting to warn it properly.
So, June 24th. Thank you. Anything else on short-term rentals or? David, anything on permits or zoning or?
Yeah, just a couple of things, go back to ARPA for a minute. At the meeting the other week, I was talking about the property out here, and there was a permit notification for 2024. What that turns out to be, Mrs. Dexter from the ARPA committee had made an inquiry to them,
Right.
so they assigned a number to it. But I got the information from the state, and nothing really happened past there. So my recommendation would be to let me call Elijah, who's our wetlands person for this district, and just invite him to come down here some morning, you know, let the board know when he's coming. What's out there? Where is this line? Because you can see the wetlands go over here, but what is over here? And just get a definitive answer that would inform your committee making your decision later on.
Right.
Is this workable or is it not workable?
Right.
Because when you go back to the original documents we did in 2013, you know, there were setbacks, there's restrictions, but, you know, it's 11 years later, so.
Yeah,
You never know, it may not be the same setting now, but I think if I could just call them and get the person to come down here, or they might even do it, because a lot of times they just do it by looking at the maps and the overhead photography, and just say, what's the story out here? So it's either a go or no go, it's really yes or no, consider something or don't, so.
okay, that'd be great.
If
Yeah.
they need to do a bigger environmental study, you know, we could apply for ARPA funds.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the things, I mean, if you get into a wetland delineation study, you know, that's gonna take a solid 8, 9 months to do. I just did one with a local person for Shaftesbury, and it's just time, it just gets backed up. But, I think just finding out, let's just find out if it's a go or no go out here. You know, if it requires a study, yeah, he'll let us know.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it may be crystal clear. The only other thing going on, besides normal permits and some houses and lot clearing, we're probably gonna have a public hearing on Casella. I've been talking to their engineers, but they haven't made the formal application, probably late June. They're expanding their maintenance shop up here, which by their original permits in 250, we have to have a hearing on. All the trucks have disappeared from the yard in Shaftesbury, so I assume they've been moved up here, but I don't know that for a fact yet. And that would also require an adjustment to their operating permit from the town here, from their zoning permit from the town here.
So they're adding,
Yeah, they're doubling the size. There's a maintenance bay right when you come up on the left, when you're going up to like the scale house.
Yep.
So they're doubling the size of that, and they're also, part of it, and it's kind of weird because it's in 2 towns, but our part says X number of trucks can be in Sunderland, so we'll have to see. Because like I said, the yard in Shaftesbury, they haven't used in a long time. They've been parking all the TAM trucks there, and they all disappeared a month ago, so I kind of assume they're all down here, so we'll find out. I'm expecting to have their full application in a couple of weeks.
okay, great.
And the rest is just normal, the house here and there. And I had lots of inquiries about STRs. So,
Okay.
seems to be on everybody's radar right now.
Excellent. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
I think we might want to do an executive session to discuss some,
I can give you that straight out, the communication has begun,
that has,
and I'll keep you posted.
okay,
Waiting for the reply before the next letter.
all right, great.
Yeah.
Well, a question.
Yeah.
I know you've been on the agenda, do you want to do it every so often, or?
Yeah, I don't know, it's up to the board, but like every other meeting or every third meeting or something, I don't know if there's enough for me to be here every meeting, it's up to the board, really. I'm an employee of the board, so if you want me here, 50 yards down the road.
All right, well, I think maybe we could go every other meeting and.
Yeah. Do the first one every month.
Unless you have something you need, and
Yeah,
you
unless
can
there's
send
something-
us a written report.
Right,
Yeah, yeah, like I'll be at your next one because we'll know about this stuff, or if you have questions about what Elijah says, or
okay,
if he even can come, I mean, I don't know, we'll see what happens with him, but, yeah, most of the time, I wouldn't have anything really exciting
Recording
to
in
report,
progress.
so,
okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you, David, appreciate it. Any other questions?
With that, I think I'll excuse myself.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Under old business, have not heard on the dog issue. Has anybody else heard? Merrill has not gotten back to me on that. And let's see, we talked about the meeting on May 7th. We did discuss possibility of having a gathering here, but I think we need to find out if this property, where we might be able to have it before we actually try to put a date or something on that. We'd like a town gathering at some point, and it'd be preferable if it were here, on our property here, but we need to confirm that that's okay with the state and everybody. Under new business, Caitlin Hawley, application, it's here for Mia's replacement. She had also applied at the same time Mia applied, and I have not contacted her, but I will give her a call and see if she might come to our next meeting and see if she's still available and would like to do this job. We will definitely miss Mia, who's done a terrific job with our notes here and keeping our minutes right up to date. I need a motion for us to sign the contract to Woodward for the work that they've done. There was a contract for them to do work on the bike path, and all of us have to sign this. And I need a motion that their compensation was $10,559 for this. But we need to approve that, and so that they can get paid.
Where's that money coming from?
It was a grant.
Was it Martin's grant?
Yep.
Okay.
We had to put, I don't know what our proportion of the grant was, but the grant took most of it.
Great.
Any of the bike paths were all grants.
Yeah.
The town had to put so much in.
Those are the grants from like the Safer, is it like the Safer Roads Committee, or?
Yeah, I think it's the Yorks
I think so.
would actually apply.
Okay.
So, Do we have a motion that we sign this? Bruce?
Make the motion. I think that was approved.
Well, Susan said that we have to sign this, so
Yeah.
just to cover us, I want to make sure that it's been voted upon and documented that we approved it. So do I have a second? Okay, all in favor of signing this, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Pass it. Started, Marty. Also, Susan, our town clerk, will not be here this coming Friday, and she'll be returning Tuesday after the Memorial holiday. Caroline will be here, but will be closing at 2 p.m. because of driving the bus. But we're not, this town office is not open on Friday, so I don't know if that means on Tuesday she'll be here. But, Susan requested that all the agendas, minutes, and notices need to be posted before May 28th. It must be submitted to her by May 16th, which is 3 days from now, so. You all right on that? I'll have to get my agenda going too. All right, any other new business? There's no other correspondence that I have. We need an executive session. So we need to have a motion that we enter executive session.
We enter executive session for a contractual purpose.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All right, we're in the executive session, so we will, so you have to step outside for a minute. All right, if you don't mind. Sort of, but I don't know.
Recording stopped.
I don't know if she's at.
Yeah, I think,
You have to shut that off.